Ladies and gentlemen, I have 6 solving problems here, 2-step equations involving integers where we have different things going on. We've got fractions and negative numbers and multiplication and distribution. So this should be a good sample of what you need to do when you're solving equations. Solving equations is pretty much about the most important thing you need to get before we can move on in 8th grade math. So let's see if we can do some of these step by step. We want to undo the operations that we see happening. And the first thing we're going to do in this one on the top left, it's 4 plus 3p. We're going to subtract 4 from both sides. That leaves us with 3p equals 15. Now we're going to divide by 3. We're trying to get p by itself. Those 3's will cancel out. P equals 15 divided by 3 is 5. Step by step. If we move on to the top right, x over negative 3 minus 2 equals 9. So it's x over negative 3 minus 2 equals 9. Now we have this fraction here, but before we do anything with the fraction, we're going to want to get rid of the negative 2 on the left side. So we're going to add 2 to both sides. We do the opposite of what we see. And that will give us x over negative 3 equals 11. Now we will do something about this negative 3 in the denominator of the fraction. We will multiply by negative 3, and that will cancel out these negatives. X equals negative 33. Now, moving on to the middle row on the left. Here's where we need to keep track of our negatives. Negatives trip us up all the time, so we're going to start by adding 13 to both sides. When you see a multiplication and an addition going on, take care of that addition first and then do the dividing to get rid of the multiplication. So this is going to give us negative 6k equals 83 plus 13 is 96. Then we're going to divide by negative 6, not just 6, but negative 6. We're going to get k all the way by itself. And we always want to express that variable as a positive. Right? So they cancel out. K equals 96 divided by negative 6 is going to give us negative 16. And so k equals negative 16. We've kept track of our negatives. The next one on the right side of the middle row, 17 times x plus 5 equals 0. We will go ahead and distribute first. 17x plus, and then 17 times 5. So we're distributing 17 to the x and 17 to the 5, and that's 85 equals 0. Then we're going to subtract the 85 from both sides, always doing the same thing to both sides, otherwise we've messed it up. That will leave us with 17 x equals negative 85. And now we will divide both sides by 17. That will cancel out the 17s. And x equals Negative 85 divided by 17 is negative 5. Keeping track of our negatives. Now notice in this one in the lower left, bottom row, 7 equals 10 minus g over negative 2. Here we have a fraction, but it is different from the fraction in the top right. We have a 10 minus g in the numerator and a negative 2 in the denominator, but we don't have anything else. And so what we're going to do is get rid of the denominator first. In the one in the top right, we got rid of the minus 2 first because it was separate from the fraction. But here, the 10 minus g is part of the fraction. We're going to get rid of the negative 2 in the denominator first. And so 7 equals 10 minus g over negative 2. We're going to multiply both sides by negative 2. And that will cancel out. And then we have 7 times negative 2 is negative 14. Then we have 10 equals 10 minus g. So when you multiply by the negative 2 on the right side there, all you're doing is canceling out that negative 2 in the denominator. You're not doing anything to the 10 minus g. So now we have negative 14 equals 10 minus g. And so moving up a little bit, we're going to subtract 10 from both sides to get the negative g by itself. That will leave us with negative g equals negative 24. Now we don't want to express the variable as a negative, so we're going to multiply both sides by negative 1. And then we'll have 24 equals g. G equals 24. Keeping track of our negatives and expressing our variable as a positive. Last one, negative 7 equals negative 11 plus v over 5. So here we have a fraction, but we also have that negative 11 with it separately. And so we're going to do something about that negative 11 first. We're going to add 11 to both sides. That's going to give us v over 5. Negative 7 plus 11. Here's where we have to make sure we understand that if we go 7 into the negative, but 11 back to the positive, it's going to be a positive number. It's going to be positive 4. That's one area where we get tripped up a lot. Now, we're going to multiply by 5 to get rid of the 5 in the denominator of that fraction. V equals 20. And so that is 6 good examples of the different kinds of things you need to do when we are solving equations, and we're going to be practicing this over and over and over so that we really get it down.